Germany. It's going from bad to worse. So what is going wrong for the Germans? Well, our European football expert Kevin Atchard was on comms duty for talkSPORT last night. By the way, he's got a little theory.
I think the one thing that may come out of this actually is, yes, there'll be this talk of a centre forward. There always is. But I actually think, where's the right back? Why is Joshua Kimmich having to fill in at right back? And why are you having to put big centre back in Valdemar Anton in that position? Where are the right backs? Are there enough players who can really go breaking the lines? Guys like Goretzka, who didn't do it in this game, but who are the gallopers? Who are the guys? Yes, there are creatives like Wirtz and Musiala. Where are the guys who can charge into the box? So I think there are big questions that is the Bundesliga creating enough talent for this German squad? And at the moment, there are huge questions. Hugh, they've played one knockout game in the World Cup since they won the thing in 2014, and they've lost it.
It's an awful record for the Germans. Very bizarre. Where does the blame lie? Is it Nagelsmann? Is it as simple as that? He takes full blame, or did Germany just have a severe lack of quality?
I mean, listen, they've got quality players, but again, Nagelsmann, the manager, he's probably going to take the brunt of it. I mean, I was listening to something this morning. They're talking about now that is Jurgen Klopp's. That's what's going to be next year. That's the one job.
It looks that way, right?
Well, they said that's the one job he'd come out of retirement for. But for Germany, and because we were talking about it in the office about the powerhouses of world football, and Germany are definitely in that. But they haven't been of late because 4 World Cups.
Yeah.
Them, Italy, been nowhere near it. Brazil, nowhere near it. But these are 3. Argentina and France, you'd probably say the 5, wouldn't you? In terms of powerhouse of world football.
Yeah. Put Italy in it.
Yeah. Oh. I mean, they've been atrocious. They have.
Yeah.
But for Germany, I mean, and I've had conversations with Kevin Atchard before about the German, and even though I said potentially, he was like, no. He kept saying no. They're just not good enough. They haven't got the depth. Although they've got good players, there's something still missing. Like in terms of that, I don't know if it's that winning mentality because they've got serial winners in terms of club football, but
yeah.
I thought they'd go a lot further. And when they drawn against Paraguay, I was convinced that they'd beat Paraguay. And the fact they haven't, I mean, that is a travesty. Germany can't get past. I know it's a penalty shootout and it's a lottery. And by the way, they were robbed because it's a goal.
It was a goal. There was no foul on the goalkeeper.
No.
That's my worry about Wednesday night. If DR Congo stick, 10 behind the ball,
well, they're going to,
and we can't break them down, and it goes to extra time and pens. It is the flip of a coin.
Yeah,
pens. It really is. I think so anyway.
In those scenarios, Dan, you think about, you just said it there. It's the first world.
If you're just waking up, Morocco beat the Dutch on pens to seal a tie with Canada in the round of 16. The Germans, they're also out losing on penalties, but they did have a goal disallowed. Tar had scored a bullet header, but a foul on the keeper led to VAR overturning it. If people are waking up that haven't seen it, just try and describe the so-called foul that was given.
Well, the ball kind of swings into the back post towards Jonathan Tah. I can't remember who the defender is in front of the goalkeeper, but he essentially just stands his ground, really. The goalkeeper kind of brushes him, falls over, then gets up to try and make the save, and Jonathan Tah powers the header in. But the goalkeeper doesn't even appeal. No one appeals. Everyone just gets on with it. So it's VAR coming to that decision on their own, going, we don't like that. Even though the players haven't kind of disputed it, we'll just give the decision anyway.
Yeah, it's very bizarre.
But I was having a conversation again in the office, and I said that I think the officiating, in terms of letting the game flow, I think it's been really good.
Yeah.
Even the ones where players are throwing themselves to the ground and they get up and getting on. But some of the VAR decisions have been atrocious. Some of the worst we've seen.
When you've got a decision to make, not on the offside.
Yeah, even like the penalty against England, that should have been.
Yeah.
There's been so many, even that goal for Germany last night.
Yeah.
But in terms of the big decisions, I think they've been awful.
Yeah, I agree with that. Benny, you missed 2 penalties in one game. What's it like when you've got that penalty? The whole stadium, the whole world is watching, in this case, obviously for World Cups.
Yeah, I mean, my scenario was a bit different there because I'd scored 2 before that, but I only didn't want to.
What, in the game?
Yeah, I didn't want to write the lick.
You scored 2 goals, not 2 penalties.
No, I scored 1 pen and missed the other 2. But no, do you know what? It's one of those where you've got, because I took penalties regularly, you don't think about what's going on anywhere else. You just think, put the ball down. You know where you're going to put it. Because I was always somebody that, when I put the ball on the spot, I knew exactly where I'm putting it. It wasn't one of those where, as I'm walking up, I'm thinking,
where's this going?
Where am I going to put? No, just.
What do you make of the stutter?
I hate it. Because as you've seen, I think we're both in agreement, the greatest player to ever lace a pair of boots is Lionel Messi.
Yeah.
His penalty the other day was awful.
Yeah.
And
look at Badger. Do you remember Badger missing it?
Yeah.
Costing.
Yeah, over the bar in 94. It's one of them where I think when you do that started run up, if the goalkeeper's brave enough that doesn't move, then you're in a world of trouble. Because you've started so much, you then can't generate the power to go really beat him. So the goalkeeper, and it happened in the Champions League final with Eze, he tried to start run up, goalkeeper didn't move. Then Messi won the other day. We even saw Havertz hit one for Germany, like a kind of a similar started run up, couldn't generate the power. It was almost a nothing penalty, get saved.
Yeah.
I don't like it. There are some people like Ivan Toney who are great at it.
I totally agree with you.
Ivan Toney's great at it.
Was it the one this morning? I've lost track of where I know. Was it one this morning that missed it, the Dutch one, who stood directly behind the ball and at the last minute went to the side?
Yeah.
Like, all of that. Just take a penalty.
Yeah. And do you know what? These guys in training will be practicing them, and I'm pretty sure in training because I've been at clubs, right, where we're practicing penalties and doing stuff. They're scoring the penalties and they're whipping it in the top corner. It gets to game day and it goes to a penalty shootout, and the manager looks at them and goes, "Do you fancy it?" They're like, "No." And you're like, "Well, hold on, in training, when you're wasting my time, taking pens left, right, and centre.
Yeah,
this is what you practice for."
Agree. I don't get that he didn't fancy it. I don't get that.
No, you have. I mean, I think we spoke about it before. You have to. I think for the manager,
You have to what? You have to be up for it.
no, yeah, you have to believe in yourself that you want to take the penalty. If the manager,
What if one of your teammates says, "I just don't fancy it today"?
yeah, leave him. He can't take a pen then.
You don't fancy it.
No, because-
that's the reason why you're paid copious amounts of money. It's not to play Derby away on a Wednesday or whatever.
No, but
It's to take a penalty when everyone.
no, but that's the thing. You have to believe in the player that's taking the penalty. So if I said to the manager, "I don't fancy this," and he said, "No, you're taking it," and I missed because I wasn't confident enough, then the manager goes, well, and I go, "Well, I told you that." So you can never ever force a player.
No, I get that. You need to be positive.
Yeah, you have to be.
Okay. Julian Nagelsmann is under huge pressure to lose his job, with many calling for Jurgen Klopp to come in. Is Klopp the perfect person to take over Germany and make them great again, Ben? It seems like the stars are aligned, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And you look at what he did to Liverpool, what he turned them into, and then hearing reports that it was only that the German job that would pull him out of retirement is I think it does seem like a match made in heaven. The only thing is, though, when I think about Jurgen Klopp and what he did at Liverpool, that kind of day-to-day interaction, like that takes time to get Liverpool to the level that he got them to. It makes sense that every day he's drilling into them the system, the way he wants to play. Can he do that at international level, which I'm sure he can do? I mean, he's a fantastic manager, but for Germany, it's just not good. I mean, I'm not used to seeing this Germany this bad.
No.
If you look at their last few World Cups, 2018, knocked out the group stages. Do you know what I mean? They finished bottom of their group. 2020, lost to England. Remember that Hurricane header, Wembley? Was it 2-0 or 2-1? Then they knocked out the group stages in 2022, the World Cup. The last Euros knocked out by Spain. And then this one here getting beat by Paraguay. For Germany, who I regard, and I always will do, probably for a little while, a powerhouse of world football. I expect them to go deep in every competition. And at the minute, like the conveyor belt just doesn't seem to be working. When you talk about, it always felt to me, Germany always had top class internationals at the highest level. For whatever reason, that conveyor belt's stuttering a little bit in recent years, because even down to the centre forward, like I love Kai Havertz, but like you used to seeing the German, Miroslav Klose, Gomez, Klinsmann before him, these top quality centre forwards.
Yeah. They're lacking. They're lacking. For more on this, we can say good morning to our European football expert, Andy Brassel, joins us. So, Andy, good morning to you.
Morning, fellas. How are you?
We are very good. Tickety-boo. A strange old night in the World Cup, wasn't it? I don't think anyone expected two big hitters to go. Let's start with Germany. We're talking about Julian Nagelsmann and time running out. And what's your view on him first before we get to Ronald Koeman?
I think he's done, really. And I think if you look at the failure of this World Cup, it's got his fingerprints all over it. I can have sympathy to an extent because, as Benty was talking about Kai Havertz there, I think you look at Florian Wirtz, Jamal Musiala, who's coming back from that big injury. They arrived at the World Cup with a lot of out-of-nick players. Nick Voltemada, who 6 months ago would have started, but his form of the last 6 months has made that impossible. And of course, he missed in the shootout as well. But I think if you look at the way Nagelsmann has run things, he's got this famous quote going back to when he was in charge of Hoffenheim, where he said, being a manager is 15% tactics and 85% social competence. Well, he should have taken some of his own advice, because the way he's handled the players, and particularly the way he's handled the goalkeeping situation has been a huge problem. So they brought back Manuel Neuer. Everyone knew they were talking to Manuel Neuer to bring him back, but he didn't really handle it with the players. So Oliver Baumann, who was the previous goalkeeper, after the last game of the season where his club Hoffenheim played, the reporters asked him, what do you think of Manuel Neuer coming back? And he said, well, look, no one's told me about it. As far as I'm concerned, I'm still the number one. everyone knew, including the reporters asking him the question, that wasn't the case. So, like, stuff like that, you've got to be able to handle it. I think, especially when it comes to a World Cup. I mean, Didier Deschamps has always said it's not about picking your 26 best players. It's about picking players who will get along, who will click together. And if the coach isn't really leading, then you've got a huge problem.
Andy, what is the state of German football? Because we was talking about it there, me and Andy, about just, I'm so used to, for such a long time, Germany going semi-finals, finals, because they are a powerhouse of world football. But the last few tournaments, they've really stuttered. What's going on there? Is it the conveyor belt in terms of the German players coming through? Like, what is the problem?
Because it's funny, in the last, like, 5-6 years, there's been this discussion about what kind of players are we producing. Because I think traditionally, if you think of Germany at a World Cup, you think of not necessarily the best set of players there, but a good set of players who will absolutely never lie down. Whereas, of course, if you go back to the turn of the century, after the really awful, like one of the worst Euro games I can remember between England and Germany in Euro 2000 that England actually won, of course, with that Alan Shearer goal. There was a bit of a rethink, what sort of players are we producing? And Germany produce more flair players now, but there's sort of a question of, have we lost that grit along the way? Now, of course, there are exceptions like Antonio Rudiger, again, another player who hasn't had an exceptional season, but there has been a bit of a rethink about, what sort of players are we producing? And, the German football is quite good at looking at itself. But look, I think if you look down the squad list, like I said, you've got an issue in terms of form, but there are the players to do better than they have done. And at this point, it's becoming a bit of a phobia. Like you say, you're going back over 10 years to have won a World Cup knockout game for one of the most prestigious nations in world football. And I agree with you. I think it is the moment for Jurgen Klopp. And I think it will be perfect for him because, well, firstly, the DFB, the German FA, have had off the books talks with him for a while, it appears. So this wouldn't be cold. If he was announced like in a week, it wouldn't knock me over, although I would expect something to happen nearer the end of the tournament, of course, because he's working at it. But I think someone who really gets German football culture and someone who could really unite the public behind the team, because there's been quite a disconnect between the public and the team. And you're talking about a guy who's massively popular in German football culture and has been from before he was Dortmund coach.
Do they have to start again, the Germans? Do they have to go back to basics? How damning is this for German football at the moment?
Really damning, Andy. I don't think there's any doubt about that because look, they're just not a successful tournament team at the moment.
No.
And they haven't been for a while. What I think is a shame from their perspective, you go back to Euro 2024 and there are a lot of positive things. Hosted the tournament well. The team played quite nicely. Even though they went out in the quarterfinals, they came closest to beating Spain, who the eventual winners. And there needs to be a bit of a rethink, but I think there needs to be an understanding as well that they need to be a bit humble. Okay. They're coming from a difficult place, and I think Klopp would understand that.
A quick word about the Dutch as well. Is it the end for Koeman?
Probably, I think. And again, he came into this tournament with, I think, a sense of the public not really completely believing in him. Now, look, I went to their game in Houston where they beat Sweden, and the Swedish players came out of that going, how on earth did we lose that 5-1? I think the results have suggested they're a little bit better than they are. They found goals a little bit easier to come by. But look, I think you look at that game last night, Morocco's midfield is way better than theirs. Yeah. And I think that really showed in the game. And, if we're talking about Germany, like, for me, them going out in the last 16 to France would have been a par. With the Netherlands, I feel like this is a par because I genuinely feel Morocco are better than them.
Andy, what a superstar you are. Thanks for coming on our show. We're big fans, as you well know, so it's always a pleasure.